You came to IIT Kanpur in 1970, that was 50 years ago, and to IIT Madras in 1981, that's nearly 40 years ago. So you have a 50-year-long association with the IIT system and with IIT Madras, 39, 40 years. A lot of changes have taken place. So we can begin either with your IIT Madras days and how you happen to come to IIT Madras, or even if you want, you can go back to IIT Kanpur.
I will start with IIT Madras and may refer to IIT Kanpur sometime. I was in US, had finished my PhD and had taken up a faculty position at Washington State University. And I wanted to come back to India, maybe a year from then, and wanted to do something for India. My passion was that question that I was repeatedly asking, that if United States had developed so much, what is the reason India is not developing as rapidly? I actually, in my experience, did not find that the people in the United States were in any way more intelligent, or I will say even more hardworking than us. Then what is wrong with India? And my passion was to change India. And that is the reason I was quite clear that as soon as possible I want to go back to India and make a difference. I did not really know what is to be done in India. I had all kinds of thinking. We wanted India to change. That's the only thing that I knew. And what I thought that the best thing for me to do will be to probably, should I stop? The best thing for me to do is to go and park myself at IIT, because I know IIT, I knew IIT Kanpur at least, and start maybe teaching there and then figure out what can be done in India. In my mind, I was very clear that I will not necessarily stay at IIT for long, because objective will be to somehow go deeper and help India move forward. And I at that time not thought that IIT would be a good place for change. So I wrote to 5 directors of IIT, IIT Kanpur, my alma mater, the IIT Bombay, Kharagpur, Delhi and Madras. IIT Kanpur, some faculty members who had taught me and knew me well told me, yes, we know that you are going to come and we are very keen to have you. Do not worry, come and we will do whatever is required. Different IITs wrote in a very different manner. IIT Bombay, Delhi and Kharagpur were somewhat evasive. IIT Bombay in fact didn't even reply properly to my letter. They were kind of sort of saying, how can you just want a faculty position like this? There is no advertisement, you apply only against advertisement. In a contrast, I got a very nice letter from director of IIT Madras. The name I remember, P.V. Indiresan. A small letter, nicely, neatly typed, clean letter saying, I note that you want to come to IIT Madras and join as a faculty. I also notice that you are working in the area of surface acoustic wave devices. We are very keen to have you. We'll like to welcome you. But he also wrote that, but there is a certain process that we may have to go through. So soon there is going to be an advertisement, and do not worry, I will send you a note when the advertisement comes, and all that you have to do is say that I am interested in that position and I will do the needful. So this is a very important difference between then IIT Madras and all other IITs.
So you applied, you were interested. I'm sure there may be other people also. Did other people also apply during that period of time?
I'll tell you a little later, because after I came to know, I got to know more things. But that he wrote to me, and the other IITs were not even forthcoming. IIT Madras was my last choice. I had no connection to Madras, far way down in south. Being from North India had somewhat of a negative connotation about South India, and I never thought that I will join IIT Madras. But this is the only place I got very clear welcome letter. Fortunately, there was a friend of mine. He was at MIT and I was at University of Maine. We used to spend a lot of time together, who had come and joined IIT Madras. And he wrote me a very nice letter that, Ashok, you come, and we are here setting up a interesting group of scientists who would like to contribute to the country, and you will be a very welcome addition. Actually, that kind of gave me the strength that here IIT Madras was welcoming me, and at the same time, this was, there was a friend of mine who says we can do things, and I took the decision to come to IIT Madras.
So it's interesting because even today many people cite language and so on, culture as the stumbling block from coming to IIT Madras, right? I mean, when the faculty recruitment, IIT Bombay is number one, IISc is somewhere there number one perhaps, and then we figure. So it's interesting that even 40 years ago you chose to come to IIT Madras without any background.
And that is Professor Indirism. I think one of the finest director that IIT Madras had. I got to know him, and today looking back I can say that for clearly. And in fact, you are very right. At that time he recruited some 10 to 20 people like Dr. Gokhale, myself, many other people who are outsiders, who are not necessarily from South India, who are not alumni of IIT Madras. IIT Madras was, when I came here, I found out was a very conservative place. It was largely inbreeding. In fact, people did their PhD here and became faculty. Even undergraduate students came rarely. And there is no question of having many people from other places. And I saw a distinct difference between the director, who was himself not from IIT Madras, had come from somewhere else, and the rest of IIT. Very distinct difference. IIT Madras was a very conservative place. In fact, to my surprise, when I landed up, and I had written enough letters to the director, to the head of department, that I am coming on such and such a date. I come to the department of electrical engineering, walk in, wait for head of department to come in, and Professor Rajappan comes in after some time and gets to know that I have come, calls me to his room. Oh, he said, "Oh, you have come? We never thought that you will come." This is the first statement that I heard from him. But now that you have come, good, join. I found out that electrical engineering department at that time had no recruitment before me for almost 7 years, 8 years. And in the beginning, I saw a certain amount of hostility. I will say, looking back, it was not completely hostility, but it was a complete disbelief. People after people will ask me, "Oh, you have come back from the United States. Why? Why are you joining IIT Madras?" Others would say, "Oh, you are going to be here for a few months and will go away. You are not going to stay here." This was of immense contrast to the director, who had of course welcomed him. I had written few times. He got me into to meet me, called me and say, you should do as much as you can, and since you are working in surface acoustic wave devices, there is no work here going on in surface acoustic wave devices, but there is work going on in surface acoustic wave devices at IIT Delhi. Go and spend a summer there. I will enable that. So this is something that he did for all the many young faculty at that time who joined.
Did you work with Professor Indireshan? I mean, some.
I had never known Professor Indireshan.
No. After you came and joined?
I'll tell you, I did teach a course with him much later, because I was teaching communication course, and he also said that he will teach along with me, and therefore we are jointly teaching that course. But other than that, no. And that course also he was teaching, and of course in the morning I will get a call that today I am not able to take a class and you take the class. So he could do only so much, but he was keen on teaching and he tried to teach. That was all that I had in terms of teaching experience with him, or any other technology in work with him. I did not work with him, but I had a lot of other interesting things that happened. One thing, I was young at that time, not married, didn't have much contact other than my friend Mukundan. So I used to spend a lot of time with students, primarily undergraduate students. That time I was teaching them and I used to spend time with them. Very soon I started having lunch with them. All the time I will go to their hostel and have lunch with them. So I got extremely friendly with the undergraduate students here and got to know them. They also liked me. I was older than them, but not too much older than them. They used to talk to me quite a bit, and not necessarily about academics, but all kinds of things. I remember at one time, probably in the first year or second year, 18 students landed up doing their project with me. So I had a huge army of these young people working for me. That was my early experience in work. But there in the department, as I pointed out, I found the department was split into different sections. I was put in a section, microwave, and why? Because surface acoustic waves are used in microwaves. I found the kind of work that I was doing nobody else was doing. My work was theory work in electromagnetics. Electromagnetic wave propagation I understood, and I was doing theoretical work. The closest a person used to work was Professor Narasimhan. He used to, of course, work with a number of defense projects, and he was working in electromagnetics. I could fairly quickly pick up what he was doing, and he had a number of masters and PhD students. He used to be a very tough person, so the students used to be scared of him. So I used to spend a lot of time with them and help them. On the other hand, I had a large number of these undergraduate students that I used to work with. Since I used to spend a lot of time with the students, and I started getting to understand their problem, very often I will intervene, especially when a student is not doing well. Very much like you, Devendra. So the students who are not doing well, they will immediately come to me, and I'll recognize that they have some vices, they have some weaknesses, but they are decent people. Particularly when they were worried that they will be failed and thrown out, I used to kind of try to help them. So, number of times, in fact, when things got tough for some of the students, and I will try to help them, and I even went up to the director and told them, sir, that we should help them. And that's how was my interaction with him. And he noticed that I was interested in students.
So the students were much more accepting of you than the faculty, even though the students, you know.
Faculty also accepted me. It took some time. Basically, now that I know all of them very well, they basically did not believe that I was going to be there. Being a very conservative, they thought, first of all, I was different. Most of them were from either Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, maybe Kerala, Karnataka. There was hardly anyone from North India. There were 2, 3 of us. Even they were kind of somewhat reluctant in the beginning. But as I started settling down and they all started feeling that I am going to be there, I had a great relationship with them. But in the beginning it was tough. I remember there was Professor Mukunda Rao and he was trying to work on underwater laser propagation. I knew nothing about the area. But I soon found out that he also did not know much about the area. And there was a different project that he was going to get, and I got involved in it. I studied a bit and sort of said, well, this can be done. And I remember that suddenly Professor Mukunda Rao said that the team will come from Department of Electronics and we are supposed to make a presentation. So Ashok, since you have done so much study, why don't you make a presentation? I said, fine, next day I will do that. I went around trying to find out from the department that where can I get some transparencies and the pens. The department office sort of said the only place you can actually get it is section head. Now, there is microwave sections and Professor D.K. Banerjee is the head of it. So I went to him and said, sir, I need a few transparencies and pens. And I got a 10 minutes lecture that how can I just come there and ask for pens and transparencies. They are not just available just like that. And the only thing I felt bad that he had it. But somehow I managed, got through things done. The students had a very different relationship. But all this, as I told you, with faculty, this stiffness, I'll say stiffness, lasted for about 6, 7 months. Very soon I got to know Radhakrishna Rao, who was one of the most present professors that I have, and became my mentor from that point onwards. It got better. I started teaching communication. I was suddenly asked, you teach communication. I had never taught communication. I was told, well, this book Hakins, you take that and teach. Professor V.V. Rao told me about it. I said, fine, I'll study that and teach it. I had done that in the United States at Washington State University. I taught new courses by just taking a book and studying it and did that. So I taught that. That's how I got to connect with Professor Indresan, because he used to teach communication at IIT Delhi. But you know, towards the end of the year, in various meetings that we have had that we should help students, idea came that why shouldn't we form a guidance and counseling unit?
GCU.
The GCU. In 1982, this GCU was formed.
Right after your first year.
Right after first year. And I was called by the director and I said, you should head the GCU. It was under Dean of Students. Professor Kuchatkar was Dean. No, not Professor Kuchatkar. But no, not Kuchatkar. Kuchatkar, I'm mixing up from IIT Kanpur. Professor Kuriakos, I think. Professor Kuriakos was Dean. He and I became the head of guidance and counseling unit. And I was told, you organize the thing. There were other young professors who had come with me at that time, people like Professor Gokhale, and there were a few others, Bhattacharya was there. We kind of together started sort of saying, we'll help the students. And it was a very interesting thing. So we sort of said, what do? We will try to figure out how the students are doing at the end of their first quiz and see if they are not doing well. We will try to figure that out and help them. Fortunately, there was a young student, C.V.R. Murthy, who is today Professor C.V.R. Murthy. He was a student head of guidance and counseling unit, and we worked together to try to create this student volunteers, and students worked with us very well to try to figure out which student was not doing well.
It's interesting that the same approach still continues. Look at their marks after the first quiz or at the end of the first semester, and then identify the weak students. You know, but
And I'll tell you a story. It's a very interesting story which really, I'll say, important history for IIT Madras. Within 2-3 months, within a couple of months of semester starting, we had a list of students who were not doing well. We kept track with them. By the time the midsum came, we used to at that time had a quiz, midsum and quiz. I saw again a number of them not doing well. And particularly I noticed 4 young kids. All of them were doing extremely poorly. We soon found that 4 of them had come from Zambia.
yeah, I know. IIT then had this direct admission.
Direct admission, foreign nationals,
nationals from
Indian
abroad,
nationals from abroad,
Correct.
and all 4 of them had come. And I started meeting them. There were 4 of them. All 4 of them, I got to know them very well. And I saw that they were really weak. And when I started talking to them more and figuring out, I figured out that they had only done equivalent of class 10 and come here. Whereas the students who were coming from India had done up to class 11 at that time and came here. There was a clear 1-year gap, and they had not done enough mathematics and even physics, chemistry, and they were just behind. I collected enough data. I was quite surprised that that had happened, and I went and met Professor Indirasan, saying, here is the data. These people have, the reason they are not doing well, because they don't have the background. Particularly mathematics, they have no clue, they have never done calculus, and here we are assuming that they know all of this. And I remember this point that somebody was making just now, that there was, in the first few classes, there was something d by dt, and both sides, one of them, Rene Abraham, had cancelled both the d's and was trying to solve the problem. As we got to know them, and I told Professor Indirasan, sir, there is a problem. We seem to have admitted people without adequate background. So he looked at it, he examined it in great detail, had the dean come in there, and concluded that what I am saying was true. So he says, well, we have to handle it. It's very soft. He said, we'll handle it. So I intervened and said, sir, what are you going to do? He says, well, they have to leave. I say, go to leave. He says, we have no other option. We have to ask them to go. I said, but sir, it was our mistake, not theirs. We should not have admitted them. He says, well, yes, I agree it was our mistake, but we can't do anything with them. It is best for their career also that they leave. I say, going back after spending 3 months here, back to Zambia, what will it do to them? We cannot do that, sir. He says, Ashok, you don't understand. You are too young. Let me do what is the right thing. I said, sir, I do not agree. He says, but well, we are going to get them to leave. That afternoon was a Senate meeting. Now, one of the things that happened when I was made head of Guidance and Counseling Unit, and by the way, the concept of Guidance and Counseling Unit came from IIT Kanpur. I was part of that, and I had given a lot of input. I was, as a young assistant professor, made a member of Senate, invited member of Senate, invited member of Board of Academic Courses. And so I was in the Senate. And I sat there, I don't think it was the first meeting, second meeting, and this topic came where the 4 students are to be discontinued. And I got up and raised my hand, and I say, sir, I think this is not a right decision. We have made a mistake. it is a wrong thing and it should not happen. Professor Indiresan first tried to kind of, in a nice manner, tried to argue out and say there is no other option. Professor Jhunjhunwala, we will have to let them go. I say, sir, no. At least I want to point out that this is a wrong thing that we will be doing. There was a little bit of kind of disturbance in the Senate, because I later on got to know nobody spoke so directly opposed to the director openly. And here I was openly arguing against him. And Professor Indiresan tried to argue once or twice, and I would keep on making the point, and he got angry. He got angry at me, kind of put me down, but very soon winded up the Senate meeting. I was very worried, somewhat scared, and the decision to throw them out did not happen. He had turned back in the end, so then it is totally your responsibility. You handle the way you want to do it. And as the Senate winded up, he was going out. I was very worried. I had no clue what to do. He just pointed out, come to my room. I went. The Senate meeting used to take place in 5th floor, and just across was his room, and I went there. He got me to sit in his room. He was doing various things. 10-15 minutes he did this. I think he calmed down, he drank some water, and then he turned. So what are you going to do? You have got them to continue. So I said, that decision is final. He says, we did not throw him out because of you. Now what are you going to do? I say, sir, I do not know. I'll have to figure out. He said, well, yes, I need to think through and figure it out. But he also said he will help me. I suggested, sir, what do you think that we could do? Which I tried to tell in the Senate, is that they are good at other things like technical drawing, they were doing very well. The workshops, they were doing very well. They were actually doing poorly. English, they were very good. They are poor in these chemistry, mathematics, and physics, but these three were the key subjects. I said, maybe we should get them to drop these courses, get some school teachers to come and do crash courses in these three areas. I said, well, he said, that's exactly what you now need to do. So they asked me, where will you get these school teachers? I said, I don't know, but I'll inquire around. He said, okay, you have been here now for almost a year and quarter. Which are the best schools you think in Chennai, in Madras? I named 4 or 5 institutes. He quickly pulled this out and said, let's call the people. Within next 15-20 minutes, he had a list of some 10 faculty in these 3 areas are considered the best teachers in these schools. So now we should call them if any of them are willing to come and give a tutor, become a tutor. In the meantime, we worked out that if they can come for about 6 hours, I can get other students to help them, because guidance and counseling unit. I mean, I had people like Professor David Koel Pillai, who was now a professor. There are people like them, and I said we can get these people. They say all were ready to help. Rene Abraham was in our department. They are all willing to help. So we said that if we can get them to come for 3 afternoons for 1.5 to 2 hours each, and different people at different time, maybe we'll be able to do. Within 24 hours, we are actually able to, and he says money is not an issue, we'll give them and all that, and actually this happened. they were actually dropped not only from that semester, but physics, chemistry, maths, they dropped even from next semester. But they did few humanities course, few other courses which would come later on. We kind of readjusted the program, and they had this coaching. I myself used to help them, used to try to teach them a bit. Large number of students used to teach them. End of a year, they knew all right. And then they went back to the courses. They used to struggle. I will say they will never do well. But we had done enough that they will not fail. All 4 of them progressed. Year 1, this was completed in about a year and a half, 2 years. About 3.5 years, they had completed 3 years, most of the courses, without much of problem. Fortunately, there were 3 men and 1 woman, Shashikala Ashirvadam. She was in chemical engineering department. And she came in the 4th year in the chemical engineering department, and she started doing very well, reasonably well on her own. We didn't even need to help her. One was in aero. Even he started doing all right. It is Rene Abraham, who was in electrical engineering, had a problem because not having enough background and trying to pick up electrical engineering was tough. Almost considered at that time by students as a tyrant department. This is a department where the students had told me so many stories that there was a course in which, and I won't name the course, 34 students had registered and 31 had failed. And it used to do that. It was a difficult department. I used to teach, so I knew the communication course itself was quite tough. Principles of communication. It required a very heavy understanding of mathematics. And we used to teach no communication, we used to teach only mathematics. So Rene Abraham really didn't do well, even later on. And I was very worried that 4th year, 5th year, it will be very difficult. End of 2nd year, in the summer, I put him under Dr. Kumarwell of CEC. I says, well, he seemed to have good with his hands. Maybe he'll learn number of things. Dr. Kumarwell, Central Electronics Center, used to train diploma people and train them to do all kind of electronic system design and repair. And Kumarwell helped him a lot. He learnt a lot. He was doing well. Courses he would struggle. And I would remember, I would try to teach him some things. I often used to go to teachers and sort of say, give him another exam and all that, which I think we continue to do with students who don't do well, but with great difficulty he passed. You know, looking back, then Rene Abraham went away and started working in industry. I lost touch with him for about 3 years or 4 years. And then we had started working in the area of wireless, which we'll come to later on, and we needed some very talented people. And one day he was visiting us, and I sat with him and was going through. He actually knew far more than I knew about system design. He actually became very good, fairly good. And then of course we had taken him back as a project staff, and then when we formed this company called Madras Communication, he became founder. Today, I think he's probably among the top 5 or top 10 designers, hardware designers of systems in this country. Probably didn't do very well, 6.5 pointer or something, barely managed to pass. And yet, he became very good. And I'll say, today if I have any difficulty where I can't solve a problem with electronic systems. He's one of the first person I call him, and he helps me. He's a top class designer. First time, and this has happened. And fortunately, this has not happened just for him, but a large number of other students and people. So, I'll come back, and I'll come back to this point. What did I do? Of course, was friendly to students, helping guidance and counseling unit, and a large number of undergraduate students working with me. Professor Mukund Rao had this laser lab, and he was a person who would do work but wouldn't interfere. Very nice man. Very soon he actually handed over the keys of the lab to me and said, Ashok, you do whatever you want with this underwater laser communication systems. And I had a big lab. And I had all these undergraduate students coming there, working 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. They used to sleep there and they used to work. Was I guiding them? No. Actually, they were working on digital systems, microprocessor. And believe it or not, when I came to IIT Madras, I did not know what an AND gate and OR gate was. I knew nothing about digital circuits. I had missed that at IIT Kanpur, had not taken up anything during my master's and PhD, and knew nothing about digital circuits or microprocessor. I heard about them, that's all. I didn't even respect that kind of work. It is once a bunch of students, 2, 3 of them came and said they will like to build something that IEEE have thrown a challenge. A micro mouse which will move, they like to build, which will go and into a maze and solve the maze. And they will like to do it. Remember, I did not know anything about any of these things. But we suddenly, these people, youngsters were interested. Madhyadagan, who is on our faculty, was one of them. There were people like one Thomas Alexander, a top class technologist, and a Deepak Kanchandani. These were people who were ready to teach me. In fact, every bit of digital circuits, or why digital circuits, even analog circuits, I actually learned from them. They used to teach me and I learned. I've learned from them, and I've learned later on more from my students than I will say I have taught them. From these young students, they will teach me. I was good at picking up. I'll pick that up very soon, particularly when they will teach me. And we decided to build this micro mouse. We learned about LED detectors. We learned about how to mount them. We learned about motors, stepper motors, how we will drive them. That is the time I could go and access. By that time, enough faculty were friendly to me, because I was a young person who was doer. Actually, department didn't do as much. So they would let somebody use this. So I would be able to use various facilities here and there. And when we used to do the processor, we had mounted a processor, we had done everything, but how do you load a program? There was no EEPROM at that time. So we had to actually, every time we turned on the processor, we had to load the program. And I remember in hex, F3, E2, 7th, 9, that's the way we'll write down the program. And I remember people like Madhyadagan will remember this huge 300, 400 line code, and somebody will be just putting in, and we'll have the battery and other things. But end of it, with a bunch of students working together, they solved, they did They made the thing and they solved the maze. I remember in 83 there was an open house, and we had put this in the current Sari lab, this whole thing, and it was one of the biggest attraction. Some tens of thousands of people visited that. Here is a system that we made which will solve this. It was done by undergraduate students with my help. Yes, I used to be there with them. I used to be there till late with them. I was alone at my home, but that's what we used to do. These undergraduate students taught me, and I grew in confidence. I knew enough theory. Theory was easy for me, but they taught me how to build things. And we'll do one thing after another, large number of them. We'll figure out projects. Money was not much of an issue because small components, we'll buy it somewhere or other, and we will keep doing that. That's how I learned digital circuits, learned microprocessors, started teaching digital circuits, started teaching microprocessors after teaching communications. And in some way, many faculty, just the opposite of my early this thing, they used to kind of love me. Here is a youngster, doer, wanting to do things, works with large number of students and gets things done. And I used to teach courses after courses and do this. This was my early period.